Welcome everybody to the Mentor Business Podcast. And we are live. We are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. We are live on LinkedIn. So today it's 20-year-old entrepreneur versus 40-year-old entrepreneur. So we've got Jason on today. Jason, welcome to the show, pal. How you doing?
I'm all good. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome to come on. You're welcome to come on. We love to hear from different perspectives. So last person we had on, Eugene, was giving us his story of 40 years in business. And now we're going to get your story of what it's like to step into business as well. So tell us about your background, Jason, and where you're from and what you do and where you're heading.
Yeah, so my name's Jason. I'm 20 years old, as by the title. I'm originally from Northern Ireland, but I'm currently studying at Aston University in England. And I'm currently running two businesses. I'm running an event business, bringing together young entrepreneurs on a global platform. And I also run a well-being technology business for smart health indicators through smartwatches. And yeah, that's kind of my background, and now I'm here.
So two businesses, whilst being a student at one of the top universities in England. What's life like for Jason then doing that? Because you're not just a student here, you're an entrepreneur student. So you're doing the stuff whilst learning, right?
Yeah, so I'm actually the course that I do at Aston University, it's called Business Enterprise Development. So it's done through what's called the Team Academy model. So it's done through learning by doing. So I don't actually have any exams, thankfully, but I'm encouraged to use my business as a means of learning rather than just sitting in a lecture hall and listening to lecturers. So life's quite busy all the time with, two businesses, studies, part-time jobs, everything like that. But yeah, it's yeah, never never bored.
Never bored. And are the businesses working out for you whilst doing your studies as well? I mean, that's quite a pressure to be having for you're 20, right? That's obviously that's
Mhm.
the title as well, 20 versus 40. So how are these businesses going whilst you're also doing your studies too?
So my first businesses, my first business, which is the well-being technology one, it's been running now for about 15 months. I started it whenever I was 18, got the idea whenever I first came to university, started it up around January of my first year, and now it's been running for about a year and a half or a year and 3 months. It's currently at its sort of prototype stage. It's just finished prototyping and looking to go to market. So it's currently not profitable, but it's more of a long-term business that I'm looking to hopefully bring to market by the end of this summer, sort of Q3 direction. My second business is events management. So I'm running this global conference for young entrepreneurs from all around the world, bringing them here to Birmingham so that they can collaborate, network, and grow. That's been running now since about January of this year, and the first event's taking place at the end of April, which so far we're looking at we've got already confirmed about 60 to 70 participants, which is a lot of people coming along. So it's going very well.
Wow. Okay. So which come first then? So the events thing. How did that come about? Because you've already got a business already, and that's the thing that Aston Business School are supporting you with. And by the way, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's a big debate in the business world that, like, students aren't prepared for real world. It's all theory. So it's great to see that the university is having and running this program. Is it helping you? Do you find with what you're doing and your career?
100%. I mean, it's a fantastic program. It started off, I think the methodology started off in Finland, and it's now spread all over the world. It's now here in England, and it's the best option for like students looking to get into entrepreneurship, because originally I wasn't too sure about university because I want to run my own business. It could be a waste of time, that sort of thing. But through using this course, it's made me realize that university is useful for student entrepreneurs, and it can actually be a means to bring you to that next level of getting all the support that the university can offer, and using all the resources around it. It's definitely given me like a boost to my business that I wouldn't have had I've just started it on my own. And the events, pardon me, the event that I'm running started actually. I went to Prague last year for like a global conference with all of these young entrepreneurs, and then entered a sort of application process to host it again, but in like our own city. Won that, ended up beating some other cities like Geneva and
Wow.
Valencia to have it hosted here in Birmingham. So
You
did
put
quite well.
Birmingham on the map, right?
Exactly. Well, I mean, Birmingham's one of the best ecosystems for business in Europe at the moment. So it's a perfect place to have it. And that kind of sparked that idea of we'll host the event with me and two of my partners, use it as sort of a bit of an idea to get a bit more cash in the bank that can then support all of our own individual businesses, whilst also creating a good sort of event to expand networks.
Well, this is entrepreneurial thinking, right? Because why not be at business school and make money too? So these are the steps that you need to be doing to start business as a 20-year-old. I mean, a lot of people that I know, I mean, that they would go and do their business degree and then they'd go into a master's degree and then they'd walk out with this certificate, but it doesn't mean anything in the real world, really. I mean, how does that going to equate to being an entrepreneur and running a business? I mean, was that was going through your mind when you were going on this degree? Talk us back for any of the viewers right now that are, you know, maybe 16-year-old and thinking about going to university and stuff. What was going through your mind and what would you recommend to them?
The main sort of thing that was going through my mind whenever I was sort of just finishing up my A levels and deciding on universities was I wanted something. First of all, I am absolutely horrible at exams.
Mm.
Hate them, they stress me out. But I wanted something that gave me more sort of freedom to, have my own creative freedom and run my business without then having to do like two separate things. I didn't want to run my business and attend university, which going on this course at Aston, it actually allowed me to combine the two where going to university helped my business. It made me work on my business. So it kind of provides that opportunity to do both rather than making them two separate things.
So, because they've got a bit of conflict on this as well, it was 20-year-old versus 40-year-old, right? Is the business is making money?
Are the businesses making money? The first one's the well-being technology one. It's currently not making money.
Why not?
It's about 4 months away from launch, so there's no product actually selling right now.
Hmm.
And it's been done through bootstrapping with grants, funding, that sort of thing to get to the level that it is now. So the aim is to have it'll be profitable by the end of the year, hopefully launching in Q3. The events business, it's fully profitable, it's thriving, and
Well,
that's kind of the expected plan with launching a new sort of well-being product, a tech product. It obviously takes a lot of time, especially being at university. Don't have as much time to spend on it as the bigger companies, but I think
so
hopefully it should be.
to put my mentor hat on right now, and you know the companies I've invested in the past, why split your time between? I could get the university thing right. You get a qualification out of it, and it ticks all the boxes. And the people that you meet on your course. By the way, I've done the Dragons Den thing with your people. You know, I've sat there in the investor seat while you've all pitched to me, and that's where I saw you, Jason. I was introduced to you. Like you got to meet Jason. Like you know, he's up and coming future entrepreneur. And that's where we started chatting. But you're doing the university stuff and you've got two other businesses. Why not just go all in with the one that really is working for you currently?
The reason that I don't go just all in on the events is it's future proofing for me personally. For I see this event, it's going well, but once this event's done, that event we then hand off to a different country to do it.
Mm.
So it's kind of a one and done process for myself at least. Obviously, the event it runs every year, but for me, there's no future in it except for maybe potentially running the odd event here and there. But for me, my tech business, that's where there's the scalability and the future area. I think the events one's what will hopefully get me off the ground and give me that funding to actually get the tech one going. And the tech one's what should sort of bring me to that level that I'm aiming for.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So the steps to starting your businesses then, what's the next steps that you're taking? For all the listeners out there now that are watching LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, listening back on Spotify. And by the way, if you are on Spotify, drop some comments if you've got anything for Jason or any sort of words of advice that you might have for Jason of what he could do next as well. You get a lot of business owners listening to this, Jason. So, they're always a big believer of take help. And looking back into my 20s now, if I would have accepted help sooner, then I probably could have saved 10 years of my life as well. Um, so that's why, we did mentorbusiness.com and finding the right mentors for people. So if we was to look at your journey then, what sort of steps will you be taking next for the big plan? Are you doing more into the event side, or you say that the other stuff is long term? How do you balance both of them?
Um, the way that I sort of find, pardon me, the way that I like find the way to balance the both of them is the events one. It's all stuff that's like it needs to kind of keep on. It's a very iterative process with events of everything needs to keep on getting booked, need to keep checking up on participants, attendees, getting everything. It's a 5 day long event, so I need to have facilities and everything sorted for 5 people for 100 days, or sorry, for 100 people for 5 days, which is a lot of stuff to do. Whereas with my tech company, a lot of stuff is waiting on other people. So it's sending the emails, it's talking to manufacturers, speaking to marketing agencies, and then waiting on them to do the work and reply to me.
Mm.
So the priority for me is my tech business. It's the one that I want to scale and bring to the future. So I make sure that I do everything like that, and then all the emails are sent, all the messages are sent. So I'm just waiting on people to respond, and while I'm waiting, then I can work on the events on the other side, and it hits two birds with one stone.
And what skills are you learning from not just your university, but from the events and also by doing your tech business? What skills are you finding that really pay off? What high income skills do you things that are the things that most of our listeners or 20-year-olds that are listening to this show should be leaning into more?
The main one that I think anybody should be leaning into is time management. Time spent on something that's going to help you in the future isn't time wasted. It's what needs to be done. The biggest sort of thing, like I know hundreds of young entrepreneurs now at this point, and the biggest thing that sort of changes them between being successful and not successful are the ones that are willing to sort of work without um almost complaining about it. It's that idea of work isn't work. It's their life is that business. They're happy to do it. They enjoy doing it. And I think time management is the best thing because I could sit there and wait for a week for somebody to respond to an email and then finally send them another one. Or I could send out 10 emails every single day to keep on going and not sort of plateau. So I think time management's 100% it's the make or break with business at any age.
Yeah, yeah. And what does time management in your world look like then? Give us an example of what time management look like for a 20-year-old student entrepreneur.
I think
You can include
especially
partying, by the way, into
that's what I was gonna say, especially with university. Universities kind times are very weird. I mean, some of my friends are waking up at 5 p.m. and going to bed at 6 a.m. That kind of, some of them end up nocturnal. But with time management with university, if I've got university and my two businesses and a social life, finding the way to actually do them all. For example, university, it's scheduled time. I need to be in at, say, 10 a.m. every day to attend lectures, attend coaching sessions, that sort of thing. But during
coaching.
those breaks,
What do you mean by coaching then?
so my course is quite different to traditional courses. So instead of doing like a lecture or seminar where somebody stands at the front of a room and just speaks to everybody, we basically sit in like a room in like a circle. One of the students hosts the session on something that they're more like stronger with. For example, I did mine on goal setting recently, and I did an alignment session as well. So it kind of, instead of having somebody speak at you and tell you about their experiences, it's an open discussion where it's not just like a teacher who's teaching you this is the way it should be done. It's an open discussion where people can go, I think this is how it should be done. What do we
Mm.
all think about that?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting dynamic because that's a lot different to like a normal classroom then, isn't it?
100%. That's what I actually love about it. Is it's not just a classroom or a lecture like most universities where it's go and sit for 3 hours and then it's done. It's we go in, we sit down, we get to know each other, we learn about what are our experiences, how do we actually improve, and because everybody does different things, it shows that sort of learning via doing. Of if one of my friends he's at a higher level to me and one of my friends is at a lower level, we
Yeah.
can all use each other to see how do we actually improve as a whole.
So it's like a group coaching environment, then, is what you're referring to. And how do you think that differs to a traditional way of learning in universities?
I think it's very different and it's a lot better because I I feel very strongly that if I had a degree that was just like a regular business degree, and I think Lewis, you can probably counteract me on this if you feel differently, but I feel that like a regular business degree tells me how to remember how to do business, whereas the degree that I'm doing, it actually teaches me how to conduct business, how to actually work in a business environment, and how to have that sort of entrepreneurial skill set rather than knowing how to learn it to put it onto an exam paper. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I know you've been through the business degree process.
Yeah, so
I'd
my
ask in here
journey's
as well.
a little bit. Yeah, so my journey when I was like 16, 17, I fell into business. I went and worked for my dad and my granddad, who sadly passed away now. But the business started in the back of a garage, manufacturing, and I knew that my friends was going to school and university, so I did. And I never really did fantastic at school. Didn't do A levels or anything like that. I just went into doing a apprenticeship. And after the apprenticeship, I fell into then doing a higher national certificate, then into a diploma, then into an MBA. And then, what was it, about 12 years ago, I finished that MBA. And I think it's different doing a doctorate, to be honest. I can't compare. You say finished last year, but a doctorate was a lot different because it's like a lifetime project that you're really passionate about. So my doctorate was in organizational behavior and coaching, which is why I like the idea that they're bringing coaching into the university now. I think it's fantastic as opposed to just lecturing. But yet, if I rewind to the MBA, it was a lot of lessons, go and learn a lot of stuff in the day that I was there because I was working at the same time. You see, I've always worked in employment before I even went into owning my own businesses. And yeah, from what I remember, it was learn this stuff, go and study it, write up a paper at the end of the module, and then at the end of it, to do an MBA, there had to be some sort of thesis around it as well. Um, and back then, being a young 20-year-old, I was kind of like felt like I had to do something. This had to be something that was what all my friends did and what society thought was right. Didn't mean it was the best result for me. It was like, well, this is a piece of paper and this is something that's going to get you into bigger jobs. But having an MBA or a diploma didn't really make a difference to me because I was an entrepreneur. So if I've got to go and let's say the real problems in business are going to be, can you get sales? Can you market yourself? I mean, you watched me as I was setting this podcast up today, didn't you, Jason? You're like, whoa, I didn't realize there was so much marketing background that's included in setting up a podcast when we go live. So it's a bit of experience there for you, Jason. Of this is the sort of stuff that's really needed in business, as opposed to what I had back in the day with the MBA, was just a certificate. None of my clients, since I own businesses and I also coach businesses, none of my clients come to me because I had an MBA. They came to me because of the results that I can get for them because they've seen me do it in my own companies. So go back to what you're doing today, as opposed to just getting a certificate. You're learning the skills that really pay off in business to give you the best start. And this is what, your business school is teaching you into modern day world. And I think it's fantastic.
I 100% agree, because the biggest thing that I had whenever I was deciding whether or not I do go to university was, oh yeah, you get a degree, but if I'm going to be self-employed, you know, nobody cares if I've got a degree. A degree is to be employed.
Yes.
It's to give on a CV and to hand in with your CV. But if I employ myself, I'm not going to not hire myself because I don't have because I don't have a degree. But finding that kind of nice, it's also a good safety net for me. For example, if my businesses don't work and I decide that I do just want to get a job, or I want to get a job whilst I'm working on my businesses, I have the degree and it's a great backup that allows that kind of mid mid area.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you're gonna get. I think it. I remember like first doing my doctorate, and I spoke to a big, number one sales coach. He's a mentor on mentorbusiness.com now. Actually, he's number one UK sales coach. And I said to him, I said, look, I'm 1 year in, and because it's like 5 years for the doctorate, part time. And I said, I'm 1 year in, and I'm really struggling. I'm just a kid from Birmingham, and I'm going for a doctorate. I never thought this was ever going to be happening to me, and I've kind of fell into this academic world. I don't know if I can do it. All this self sabotage was going on, and all this stuff. And he says, Lewis, I'm one of the top sales trainers in the world. I work with corporate businesses. As soon as I see that there is an inquiry, a quote that's been put forward, and I see my quotation and somebody else's quotation with those two letters before their name saying doctor, in corporate world, I know I'm in trouble. And I thought to myself then, I'm not actually doing this for business. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it. So, yeah, am I ever going to work corporate? I like SMEs personally. I like the flexibility. I like the agility. I can do corporate. I have done corporate, but I prefer coaching and mentoring with SMEs and my journey that I've been through. And, I find that some business owners are actually more successful than corporate people. So why not find your niche in it? So why did I need a doctorate, and why did I need to push through university? Because why quit? And that was actually the test of resilience more than anything, is that you've got to be pretty resilient as well to be doing what you do, Jason, to be doing two businesses, to be doing your degree at university, to be a 20-year-old as well, and the pressures that you have in today's world as well. It's difficult. And I think this also falls back into your sports world as well. I mean, we was talking about this before you came on. You're into boxing, right?
Yeah. I'm an amateur boxer. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many times do you get punched in the face and get back up? For me, that's an important lesson in business as well.
I think it's like we take like I know that I remember you saying there about, like, you're just a kid from Birmingham, and who are you to get a doctorate and stuff, and I felt quite similar. I mean, I'm from Northern Ireland. Name anybody from Northern Ireland. It's quite a, like, a, you don't think that it could come from, but then you think about every successful person in the world, they've come from somewhere.
Mm.
So why not here? Why not where you are? So it's that kind of, it doesn't really matter, live for anyone listening, it doesn't really matter where you kind of start, because everybody has to start somewhere. And I think that's a huge thing that people use as a doubt, as an excuse of, oh well, I'm from here, or well, I do this, or I can't do this. But so what? You just kind of gotta give it a go.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's got to be drivers behind it as well, because when the times do get tough, resilience is only useful if there's something that's making you get back up again. So what's your driver then, Jason, as a 20-year-old student entrepreneur running businesses? There's plenty of other opportunities that you could do, right? You could go and get a job and get high paid. I mean, you're a very smart lad, right? You could go out there and add so much value to businesses and get paid. Or you could go out there and follow your boxing career even more and go pro. Or you could choose to not get up early this morning and come on a podcast for Mental Business Podcast and speak to business owners around the world and teach them lessons. You could have decided to go out last night and get drunk as a student. What's your driver, pal? What keeps you going, and what makes you successful in what you do today?
I think it leads back to what I said about the sort of difference between the successful entrepreneurs and the ones that aren't as successful is it's just the fact that I love it. I love getting up and doing business. I love doing stuff. I've always said like I remember I got asked like, oh, if I got £1 million right now, what would I do? And
Mm.
my first response was, I'll go to a beach and I'll lay there for the rest of my life and have a good time, and I'll just sit there and chill. And then I thought about it and I was like, give me about 10 hours and I'll be bored, and I'll go and do something else. So the reason I don't really do it almost for an end goal. I just do it because I enjoy it, and I think that kind of passion is what drives me. What about you, Lewis? What is it that keeps you going for your businesses, for your podcast? I mean, you've got lots of successful businesses. Why do you need to start mentorbusiness.com?
Um, the short answer to that is that I believe that everybody should have the opportunity to step into business wealth. And being a young kid from the place in Birmingham that I talk about, so I say Birmingham because people around the world probably know it from Peaky Blinders and things, but it's a place, I'm from Wolverhampton, which is actually more black country when you watch Peaky Blinders. Um, but in the back of my mind is that there's a lot of people out there, and I've always said to myself since a young age, Jason, is that I used to watch a lot of people sitting around watching, I don't know if it's still showing anymore, but Jeremy Kyle and,
Yeah.
daytime TV shows and things. Probably still going, yeah. The only person successful from Jeremy Kyle is Jeremy Kyle, right? He's kind of like the wolf amongst a lot of sheeps there. Now, the challenge is that people were choosing to sit at home and watch things, and for every hour that they would sit in front of the TV, especially if they were not working and stuff, some of these people that I knew coming from, different backgrounds and different estates when I grew up. I mean, I didn't go to it was a mediocre school, really. It's just an average school, but there were some people in there that never were aspirational at all. But I'd meet these young kids or young people, and from the age of 15 to 25, and I'd be thinking, you've got so much potential, so much potential. And I was one of those in my early 20s where I had a lot of potential. I was a bit like you with your boxing. I loved personal fitness. I loved martial arts. I loved the gym, but it was all about me. And I took that mindset of wanting to break through and push the limits in the physical space. And I'm like, well, what could happen if this was in the world of business, where you're not just about an individual, but you're part of an organization, a group, a team of people. So everybody that I used to meet then, I would see massive potential in them. Like, you could be doing this too, you could be doing that. And as soon as I started to apply some stuff in my life, because of like not watching um daytime TV or whatever, I would start to go and read stuff and learn stuff and be inspired by people out there. And I always had this thought in my mind that if someone else can do it, I can too. Or maybe if someone else is doing it 100%, like Elon Musk, if I did just 1% of what he's doing, regardless of his beliefs and everything, I usually say names like that on a podcast, it goes down the wrong rabbit hole. In business, I'm talking about. If I could just do 1% of what he's doing in business, then look what my life could look like and what I could leave behind for my kids and the people that I meet along the way. But the challenge is that you could lead a horse to water, but you couldn't make it drink. So when I went into, I scaled my businesses, grew my businesses, and people was asking me, and I fell into coaching. Well, this is how I do it. It was never coaching at the time or mentoring. It's just like, well, come along, I can help you out with that. What started to happen, Jason, is that I would be, because I was entrepreneurial as well and also going that next level, I was meeting people that were helping me. And sometimes those people were better at they knew more knowledge for a certain area than I did. So they helped me in my businesses. So I thought, well, how do I put these people in front of my clients rather than making it all about me and how great I am? It's like, well, there's people out there that you could go and learn from. So I become like supervisor coach. Ultimately, I was responsible for looking over the business. A bit like if you look at an organizational chart, I sat alongside the C-suite or the SLT team to point them in the right direction for growth. And this is as businesses started to grow and I was making more impact, all with that vision of I just want to help more people step into wealth, whether that be an employee, a business owner. And I don't ever think people should fall into like boundaried careers. There should be like boundaryless careers. That was part of my PhD, by the way, was to talk about boundaryless careers and how the risks that come with it, the uncertainty that can come with it, like being an entrepreneur, boundaryless career. Yes, you can make all this money. You can buy the Lamborghinis and the Aston Martins and the boats and the houses. And, you know, I don't think there's a problem with that, by the way. That kind of inspires me a little bit to go, well, why not? But it's all like materialistic things that are just little signals in your world to go, well, now I'm at that point that I can do it. So everybody can start to have that boundaryless career if they choose to. But I quickly found that you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So that choose to part became a big part of me, you know, that if this person doesn't want to know and learn or grow in that direction, they can grow in all different directions, then that's okay. Not everybody is the same. And as I started doing more social media posts about it, well, guess what? You get people start to haters come on. This person can't do this and this person. Look, I had a saying then that for every 10 people you meet, one will really hate what you do. Two will really love what you do. And the other seven just won't give a fuck. So you're never going to impress everybody with what you go out there and try and do. But as long as I stuck to that vision and that mission of just trying to help more people step into wealth, and whatever their version of wealth might look like, then that's what drives me. So that was a long-winded answer there, and I probably wish that you never asked. But I think it's important that stays with you now, regardless of whatever you do. So think about what you're doing in the event space right now. What sort of vision are you trying to achieve when you go out there and times get hard? You may have a lot of people that you think they're going to be on board and they don't get on board. You get knockbacks every day. What sort of thing keeps you going when what's your vision?
I think a huge part of the events thing for me as well is I run it with I have like two other organizers. I run it with two other organizers. So there's always that bit in the back of my head that's like, well, if I don't do my bit, if I decide to give up, my two mates, they're screwed. Like I need to pull my weight, or else it doesn't just affect me, it affects everybody else. But I also find like for like my tech business, if I decide to stop my tech business right now, nothing, it only affects me. It doesn't have anybody else riding on it. But the reason that I don't is because if I stop it, well then what am I gonna do? Like I can have setbacks. I mean, I had the prototype tech product that spent, I think it was about 5 months at this point, that was spent being made. I randomly got a message one day saying, yeah, it's broke. And it had just been broken after about 5 months of working on it, which was, I mean, if there was a time to quit, it would have been there. But what good would that have done? It's that kind of pushing forward, and that it goes back to that resilience of you kind of just got to keep on going. That's business. That's the world of business. Not anything that can go wrong will. And if you give up at every step, well, it'll never get to the end.
And this is what we're saying here is that just because, so I love the psychology of business as well. So let's go there, right? Because 20-year-old versus 40-year-old.
Go down a rabbit hole here.
Let's go down that. Let's chase the white rabbit down the hole. I'd be a big believer of like there's a lady out there, Professor Barbara Fredrickson. She looks at like she's got this theory. Yeah, and theory in the academic world, by the way, for the listeners, doesn't mean it's like theory, like wishy-washy, because a lot of people in business don't understand what theory actually means. It's like, here's this concept, this hypothesis, like we've built this theory up. Now we need to prove it. Like the theory of gravity. I've just dropped a pen. It's pretty proven, right? But then it's never, ever proven because there'll be lots of things that we need to understand more about gravity. So she's got this theory called broaden and build theory that says that positive emotions broaden the thought action repertoire. So what that means is that if you experience and you're in a good zone more often, then you are going to have more thoughts that could give you more opportunity, for example. Okay. So if we put this into a business context, we want to be experiencing more stuff that broaden our thoughts, our ability to think differently, and also the ability to train our brains. Now, does the brain really know the difference between a business context and a context like in sport? So for every time that you win or lose a match, that is also training the brain in resilience. Yeah. It's expanding that thought action repertoire. So the more resilient you become in something else, it's like going on a skydive. If you go on a skydive, the amount of fear, I've never been on one, but look, it's pretty scary. The things that could
Looks
happen.
very
And
scary.
as I've got younger family as well, I'm going, well, me just doing something for a thrill might put at risk of my family that they may not have a dad. So all this stuff starts to happen, but then there are dads out there that do a lot of skydiving, right? And for them, they're not even thinking about this; they're just going and skydiving. It's a bit like in business, right? When you go and do a public speech, I mean, the biggest fear in the world above death is public speaking. Now, when I did public speaking for the first time, I was like, couldn't sleep for weeks. It was worse than a skydive. But because we just do it now and we do it on a podcast and we do it live and we do it all this stuff, this is training the brain in the broaden and build theory stuff to broaden our ability to be able to do more cool stuff like this. So for a 20-year-old that's coming on a podcast in front of 1,000 subscribers to be able to come on here and talk like this, you're not going to have a problem when it comes to doing your events or to going up there and pitching in front of Alan Sugar or, doing the next Dragon's Den pitch. So I think that humans should always be pushing those boundaries of what we can do. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is that, look, just because you might think, oh, what do I need to do that for? It can also really train the brain. I mean, have you done anything like that in your experience? What have you found?
I think that the best thing I can say that I was thinking that whole time was a lot of, especially whenever it's just starting business or not even in business, just like public speaking is the example. A lot of that sort of like negative thoughts, those negative ideas of, oh, if I mess up my words, this is going to go absolutely horribly. I think what a lot of people like they don't realize is that nobody's like out to get you. You know, nobody hopes that you fail.
Yeah.
If you stutter on your words or you mess up your speech, so what? You know, nobody's gonna die over it. It's not. It might be a little bit embarrassing or something like that, but it's not the end of the world. And I think that it's something that's encouraged on my course is that failure is the best educator because if you don't mess stuff up, you're never going to learn not to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And this is why we need to fail more often. And I've given you a bit of science behind it. I was trying to brief that up into a 2-minute speech. But yeah, there's a lot of papers on that. There's a lot of research on it. And it's fascinating because there is science behind this resilience stuff and failing more often. And this is why we need coaches, right? This is why you have the coaches and not just lecturers. I mean, some of the lecturers that I had, 15 years ago, it felt impersonal. It was like, well, they were telling me off because I were having to leave on some days and stuff like that because of business things that are going on because I was doing part-time education. But if they was to actually sit with me and be a coach, it would have helped a lot more than just being told off in classroom. And I'm not just talking about universities, by the way. I'm talking about schools in general. Do we need more coaches in schools?
Pardon me. I think coaches are essential to any journey because teachers are obviously they're helpful. They teach the stuff that needs to be known. But whenever it comes to such a volatile world like business, no two journeys are the same. No two businesses are the same. my experiences are going to be different to yours, Lewis, hence the title. You know, our experiences are completely different, but the experiences that you've been through, any kind of mistakes that you might have made, or anything that really worked for you, passing that knowledge on to me, that stuff isn't something that I can read out of a textbook. That
Yeah,
sort of knowledge that can be passed through coaching, through mentoring. That's what, I mean, any successful business person, they know they've got people who have coached them, who have mentored them, that have brought them to that level. Nobody rolls out of bed one day and now suddenly knows how to do everything to do with business. It needs that kind of iterative process, and that's where coaching is an essential part of it.
yeah, yeah. And is that what the university is doing to support you now? Then is the coaches in there? Are they leaning toward? Because I think that teaching is also applicable. I mean, there's a great model on it. It's from the 1 Minute Manager. Um, there's a book called the 1 Minute Manager, and what they'll talk about is the situational leadership model. And coaching is a part of that situational leadership model. So imagine a quadrant, and at the top right hand corner, you've got coaching, and coaching is one of those parts. However, to be coached, you can't be coached if you don't know what to do. So it's like, let me coach you on this coaching thing, but you don't know what to do. I mean, we see this in business coaching clients all the time, that we can coach them, but if they've never been taught. So being directive and being a teacher sometimes, just go and do this, can work for different situations as well. So I think coaching is great, but it also has a place in there. And this is something where coaches need to be aware that coaching is for performance, right? Coaching and teaching is different. You coach for performance, and teaching is to, just give you the stuff that you need to do. So is that what you got? So when I walked into your university and I saw all the students, there was MBA students in there's bachelor students, the people on your course, it wasn't like sit down lecture theatre either, was it? So talk me through what you do in Aston Business School, of what gives you the environment to really flourish.
So our course, obviously it's ran, the whole idea is it's learning by doing. It's not reading stuff out of textbooks. It's going out and actually trying stuff out, seeing how it works, and then using that for assessments. So for example, the session that Lewis walked in on, we were doing a session on how to sell stuff. So we had a bunch of props, a bunch of Monopoly money, and we had people literally pitching to try and sell it to people just there on the course, random items that they found in the business school, and whoever could get the most money at the end would win.
I hate to think
And
what they found, by the way, is in the door.
it sounds like a bit of a game, but it's educational and it works because it's that kind of, you're learning to bargain. You don't realize it, but it seems at the time like, I'll give you 100 quid for your water bottle, and you'll give me 50 quid for your textbook, that sort of thing.
Mm.
But it actually subconsciously develops that kind of sales, that bargaining, that kind of entrepreneurial skill set, and that's what the focus is. It's also the coaches that we have on the course. They're amazing. What they do is they don't teach in the traditional sense of, if I ask them a question, they'll tell me an answer. If I ask them a question, they'll try and show me how to figure out the answer.
Mm.
I mean, within the first month of my course, I had quite a big argument with my coach because there was an essay due, and I'd never done a university essay. So I said to him, I was, just wondering, how do I lay this out? And he said to me, well, how do you think you should lay it out? And I was like, I'm not sure. And he was like, well, what if you were sure? And me being as cheeky as I am, went back and went that I wouldn't ask you. And it started a big argument. But looking back on it, those are the exact sort of questions that needed to be asked, because after that, I thought about it and I was like, well, this is how I would lay it out. This is how I would do it. And it's happened many a times where I'd ask a question and they respond with a question, which gets me to think and makes me find the answer on my own,
Mm.
which I think is it's the best way of teaching, rather than just giving the answers. Finding a way to get the answer yourself it's what makes people independent, and it's what sort of makes entrepreneurs thrive.
Well, this is it, because No human is generic. Okay. So to put the coaching hat on now, no human is generic. And by asking these questions, it brings out the best in them. It brings out an answer that's right for Jason as opposed to an answer that's right for teacher. Uh, It depends on the situation again, though. I've got some clients that go, Lewis, I don't need you to be coached today. I've got to get a email over to an investor within the next 12 hours. And if I don't, I miss the round of investment and this is it. Or I've got a really important email to send out for an HR thing. And, they're just like, okay, let me take the coach hat off. Just do this. Just do this. But in the world of AI nowadays as well, just do this. Everybody has the strategy. You can talk to Claude or you can talk to ChatGPT or you can talk to whatever AI system is out there. It's got to give you some sort of strategy. If you're not happy with it, like the argument I had about this podcast title before you started, then it does need the human interaction and it does need that coaching to bring out the best in people. The world's getting lazy, Jason. They're relying on AI and coaches is what bring out the best of human potential. For example, everybody's got the opportunity to step into wealth. You ask why I do mentorbusiness.com. Because I might not be the right mentor or coach for a lot of people, but with over 50 different mentors on there, and you can just watch the different coaches and mentors like a Netflix TV show, then you find the person that's right for you. I mean, think about your favorite celebrity, right? Not everybody likes the same celebrities or movie stars, and everyone's different. Everyone likes different movies. So I think there's a coach for everybody, and coaches that try and be the jack of all trades for everybody, are the coach of none. What's your experience? Have you met coaches that you more aligned to, or is there people that you warm to more?
I think, I think it's definitely dependent on coaching styles is the main
Mm,
way. Because, lots of coaches, they've got experience and that sort of thing, but it's how they actually do the coaching is what matters to me. For example, I quite like, or well, more to the point, I hate people sort of sugarcoating stuff and, sort of dancing around subjects. So if I'm talking to a coach who's kind of trying to be very nice about stuff and, just not, helping me give him the answer that I need, that's not the style that works for me. Whereas I think probably this stems a bit from, sort of like combat sport area. I need
yeah,
somebody to tell me, this isn't working, this isn't bad, or,
yeah,
why isn't this working? Hold me accountable to my, you know, shortcomings. For example, like whenever I was boxing, I get sat down in the corner after the first round, and my coach goes, "Yeah, you lost that one." No, no sort of trying to be nice about it, no trying to make you feel better about it. It's just that simple fact of, well, that didn't go well, or this needs to change. That style works for me, but I know some of my friends where if someone told them that, they'd get really offended and wouldn't go back to the person. It's
yeah,
that kind of finding that balance of, you said, like, people like different movies, they like different celebrities, so it's different to everybody, which is why I find like mentorbusiness.com so useful, because there is that option for, I could even wake up one day and decide, what, I want somebody to be a bit nicer today. I'm having a rough day, or I need something to do more with, more of the marketing side of things. I don't really care too much about the products today.
yeah.
And having that availability to choose and to have like that jack of all trades coaches, because there's just so many of them that you will find the person that works for you. That's what's valuable to me.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting what you say there because it's situational as well. And that's where like a lot of more of the experienced coaches, I mean, there's a reason why we call it mentors and not coaches as well, because a lot of the people just want to show you what they've done. So Dave Kahn, for example, one of the new mentors, or he would come on there and say, "Look, this is what you do in marketing." He's never been trained in coaching, so he's not going to start asking questions around it and come out with the stuff from it. I mean, he will do because he's so experienced, but he gets great results from what he does anyway. So, but just by showing, some of the stuff that he's done, if you could just grab 10% of what Dave knows around marketing by watching 7 by 7 minute videos, then it's a real big step in the right direction. that could just be, I mean, there's a lot of sayings out there now of people want mentors or they don't know where to go for mentors and things like that. I actually think that people do need help, and they do need that figure, that motherly or fatherly figure, as well as they're stepping into business and they've never been there before, of someone that can just hold their hand every step of the way, or report the good wins to, or talk about the shit times to. And coaches and mentors can do both of those, or even friends. It's a lonely world stepping in business. So what you've got there with your community around what the program is really unique. I mean, you said to me, Jason, as well, I said, does this feel like work being at school, at the, not school, at the university? And you went, well, there's work to be done and stuff like that. And I went, just so you know, this is it. Oh, what do you mean? Well, this is the entrepreneur journey, collaborating with people, finding problems, having stresses in your life right now because of demand from the university or the businesses. Guess what? When you're 40 years old and you've got a 10 million, $100 million business, it's going to be the same thing. Collaborating with people, stresses from customers, stresses from suppliers, stresses from the economy. So get used to it. So I think it's really cool, but it's got to be situational. Like you've just mentioned there, there's no point a coach coming to you halfway through your boxing fight while you're getting the shit beaten out of you and going, what do you think we should do right now? What do you think you should have done with your guard? You just need, put your effing guard up right now or you're going to get knocked out, mate. So there's this is the situational style of coaching, which I think is really important for coaches to also understand. But for that to have that, you've got to have that emotional intelligence and awareness of what the person's going through, and not make it about the ego of just being a coach, but also the being able to understand where that person's sitting in their life.
Definitely, like a key thing for me for like because so I run my events business with two other guys, and
Yeah.
I'm actually fortunate enough. So I live in student accommodation, so I actually live with three other guys on my course. Two of them are the guys that I'm organizing this events business with. So I actually live with my business partners, and because of that, it means every single little win, every single thing that happens,
Mm.
I don't send them an email or give them a phone call. I bang on my wall and go, "Here, this is working or this isn't working," that sort of thing. It's so much easier. But for coaches, like for my tech business, because I'm on my own on that, I don't have any employees. That's just me.
Mm.
One of the best things a coach can do for me is to just listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
For if I've had a really bad day, for example, my prototype got broken, sitting down and speaking with a coach and going, yeah, I'm not feeling, this is horrible, and today's been a horrible day and I don't really know how to get back up from it. That is what can really help me. But on the contrary to it, whenever the prototype finally did get finished, I went back into my course with the prototype and I wanted to shout about it, and I wanted everybody to know. And it's that sitting there and almost listening is what a coach is, some way that a coach can definitely provide
Well,
like so much value to everybody.
to do the 20-year-old versus 40-year-old right now, even when you've got a team. So some of my businesses have like 50 people in, and you'd play, well, you've got a team now. You've got an SLT team. I've got directors. I've got managing directors that work for me and run those businesses. But I still have to go in there, and because I want to, I said to you, like, when do you? So the other end of the spectrum, speak to a 20-year-old, would be speaking to a 70, 80-year-old, and they're still working. Why? Because it's what keeps them alive. It's what keeps them going. It keeps them passionate. So it exists. That entrepreneurial vibe exists no matter what age you are, and you have to embrace it. If you're thinking right now and you're in a business and going, this is hard, just stop, because you're not ready for the entrepreneur journey, and that's okay. Go and get a full-time job. Go and work for somebody else. Go and get that stable income. But if you like the thrill of talking to your mates or talking to your coach that you've just got the next win, you've got to also experience the roller coaster of the drops and the downs, and having someone there, friends in business that you can talk to. And sometimes that's not your team. So even though I've got businesses that are, 50 people right now, it's still lonely, because I can go to them, but they haven't seen the journey I've been through. They don't know what it's like to not sleep at night because of cash flow, or because of a decision that needs to be made tomorrow on something and getting 100 emails a day from all these different, they're not there. So it's still a lonely world. And that's why having a mentor or a coach is really good. So you can just have that time. And you know what? Sometimes the coach or mentor doesn't even need to talk. Just create space in time to reflect. And that's what's good about the questions. That's when the other side of the directiveness now turns into coaching. But just asking some questions. And sometimes the best question, Jason, is just, how are you doing? Sitting there in the silence and listening for a moment while that person thinks about it. And then turn around and go, what am I doing all this for? This is not the direction. Because this is another point as well, isn't it? Is the ladder up the right wall? Just because you're busy doesn't mean that it's successful steps forward. What's your opinion, by the way? So let's do, just before we wrap up, 20-year-old versus 40-year-old. What do you see in today as a 20-year-old that a 40-year-old doesn't see?
I think with starting, compared to starting a business now at 20, compared to, for example, whenever you would start your business at 20, the biggest difference that there is now is there is so much going on, like constantly everywhere. There's AI coming out, social media is bombarding everybody. Like, even I'm 20 years old, I'm running two businesses, I'm a student, but then I'll go on to TikTok for a minute, and I'll scroll and you'll see some 16-year-old making £1 million or something. And how real that is or not, even though I'm at that level where, I'm running two businesses, I'm a student, I'm doing all this, there's that aspect where you still feel like there's more you could be doing, where you almost could still feel behind. And I also feel that, like, the culture around business has changed a lot compared to 20 years ago. Of, there's so much more sort of social, like, media representation, and there's so many more, like, I'm not too sure how to word it, like, there's just like so much stuff going on that it's a difficult world to enter, is the biggest.
Is it stuff like pressure to perform, or is it like distractions? What do you mean by so much stuff going on? Do you get what I mean there? Is it more like,
Yeah,
feel like you've got to do this, or because everyone else is doing it, or is it because you're worried about what people will think?
I
Or
think it's a combination of, there's that sort of, there's so many distractions now that, like, my generation is the laziest in the world. Like, ever, as you said, everyone's getting lazy. We like to use our AI and we'll sit on TikTok for hours at a time. But there's also that pressure of, I can go onto my phone and see other people my age and see exactly what they're doing. So how much further behind am I, or how much further ahead am I on the other side? But it's, with there being so much going on, there's so many more pressures, but there's also so much more reason not to work. There's so many more distractions as well, and it's just it's a very confusing place to be in this modern day and age. I don't know what it was like for you whenever you were starting your business. Like, was there any sort of challenges with you? What was the main things that you found?
I think it's always been there with these pressures, but obviously it's more than ever right now. So, I'd take that but I still feel that at 40, not to just at 20. So what you're experiencing there is an age thing. Probably even more so as well. I mean, a lot of my friends had children when they were in their 25 to 30, and I was just, I'd met my wife, who's wife now, and we were traveling the world. And when I didn't start having kids until 35. So it was very similar, and I've switched the context there, but it's like, well, I've got to have it because this is what society tells me to have right now, and this is what I should be doing. But looking at it now, I've done stuff in my 20s that a lot of people would be 45 before they can do that, until their kids get old, and then do again. And as a dad, being older and being established in business, because I focus so much in my 20s and being and 30s and 40s, it's never going to stop because it's who I am. I'm so glad now that I can give my kids what they want because of all the hard work that I've done, and it's just the start, right? It's just the start. I mean, this podcast studio is in my home, right? My kids are off for Easter right now. They're in there. When I finish this podcast, I'm going to go in there and have a play, and they'll have their toys out and they'll be having fun with them. But that's life by design. Or because, I mean, that's the good part that people might see. But the bad part is the sleepless nights, the having to attend emergency meetings because there's been some sort of problem or HR problem or supply problem or cash flow problem, not knowing where your business is going to be in 3 months' time because the accounts have been messed up or cash flow is not right. These are the sort of things that people don't see as entrepreneurs, but they're the real lessons that people really need to learn. And so these pressures are always there. And then you see someone on social media who's like, do this and do this, and you see that they've got the Lamborghinis and the nice cars and the family and stuff. But when you look past the surface level, you go into it a little bit more, and you're like, now you can, now I can have this nice stuff. I'm like, well, that Lamborghini is just a rental Lamborghini they've got, and there's no way that. So if they're lying about that on social media, what else are they lying about? So I think there's like this. Yeah, there's a pressures to perform and you're seeing other people doing it. But when you're actually there and you've put all that hard work in, you can go, well, that's not right. That's not how you buy houses. That's not what my tax advisor has said about tax in business. And 99% of it, Jason, is bullshit on TikTok. Because I can take the information that I'm seeing on social media, take it to my bunch of boardroom advisors that I've got right now that I've run any sort of investment through, and they'll go, that's nonsense. That's not how you do it. So my lesson there would be, let them crack on. Let them talk about all the stuff that they think they've got in on, and fair play to them if they have done it. I'd never hate on people for having it. When I was in Australia when I was 28, I remember a guy pulling up in a black Aston Martin, and I loved Aston Martin and James Bond sort of feel back then.
It's my dream car.
Yeah, well, it was back then for me, and I had photos of it, of me sitting in it, like the NLP sort of stuff of like, whatever you believe you can achieve and all this nonsense. Maybe it helped, I don't know. But I just went up to the guy and I said to him, I says, that's an amazing car. And he says, do you know what? A lot of people will just throw me some hate instead and say, oh, you've hired that or you've done this and stuff. He says, there aren't many people that come up to me and say, well done, that's great. What do you do? So there are people out there and they do appreciate it. But the other day, actually, when I was in Australia again, I saw somebody pulled up in an old Lambo, and I went, oh, nice car, mate. Tried to talk to him again. Didn't want to know me. And I'm like, okay, what's all that about? So you're going to meet these people around you, but don't always take things at surface level because you don't know someone's backstory. You don't know what sort of work they've put in. And if they are and legitimately winning, congratulate them because they probably don't hear it enough. So your journey moving forward then, pal, what would be some of the biggest takeaways from today's podcast that you think people could take into their journey as 20-year-olds?
I think that the biggest thing for especially people my age is it's just doing stuff, like just actually doing things. I hope that's going to come across throughout the podcast, but it's like the amount of, you can have ideas and you can think that it could work and you can think this and you can pretend that, but until stuff's actually done, nothing gets done if nothing gets done, And I think that's the biggest takeaway is that for things to happen, it doesn't. So what if it might not go perfectly to plan? It might completely fail. So what? At least you give it a go. And you might see on social media, all these people with all their stuff, but they started somewhere. They had to do stuff. Well, however real or fake it might be, they still had to do stuff. And I think that's just got to be the biggest point is you got to do something. Starting today is better than a perfect start tomorrow. It's actually getting out there and making stuff happen is, yeah, that's my takeaway.
There's a saying that I was told that's really helped me in my life, and that was quite simple: go before you know. Just go before you know. Don't overthink it. right? If someone else can do it, back to what I said about my vision, like, if someone else can do it, then you can too. The difference is that they're not sitting around thinking, I can't do this because of XYZ reason. They're going, I'm just going to go and do it. The amount of times I've missed out on business opportunities, by the way, even in my early 30s, was because I was too overthinking about stuff. And now the reason that I can own 10 companies and about to take on two more is because I've done it so many times. The skydive, the public speaking, this sort of stuff, that thought action repertoire, broaden and build theory. It's just like, well, it didn't work out before. It might have worked out before, but I had a go at it. I did something. I went before I knew and I learned from it. And that's what makes you the entrepreneur that I am today. And I think this is very similar to your story as well, Jason, is that you're doing a lot of things. You've done, the technology company. You're doing events. It doesn't make sense logically to do two different markets, but it does as growing Jason as an entrepreneur.